You are listening to www.integralnaked.org.
I'm interested in applying integral theory to health promotion and wellness.
Yeah.
And specifically how to help. I have some ideas about how to introduce them to a practice that will help them to transform, but I'm interested in how do I speak their language and achieve horizontal health?
Yeah, that's a great question. And health care in what particular setting, may I ask? You want to leave that?
I do wellness, so I do corporate wellness programs. I do community wellness, so it's all prevention as opposed to medical care. Okay,
that's great. As you all know, we distinguish between at least two kinds of health. There are many different ways to do it. You can think of it as horizontal health and vertical health. And horizontal health is just at whatever stage you're at, being as healthy as you can at that stage. Now, that's very important because for so many years, we're all in kind of the transformation business. We want to transform consciousness. And particularly sort of the whole kind of last 2 or 3 decades has been about transformation. And usually as soon as you introduce people to some of these ideas, then the whole notion is that you're going to take like all 7 or 8 of your intelligences and slam them all to turquoise, or high. So it's like pow, 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 pow. And then it starts to look like some sort of Olympic decathlon consciousness winner, I mean, and more is not better. Integral doesn't mean totalistic. It means integrally informed in these essential practices that you need to do. Now, if you want to add a whole lot more, that's fine. But mostly you want to just concentrate on these really core practices that are essential and make sure that you're covering those bases. And then you can add others as you go along. So don't get into the notion that, okay, if I do 22 practices, I'm going to do better than if I do 20. Actually, beyond a certain point, it gets very counterproductive. And it's like we have sort of a menu of practices you can do. And the whole point is not you don't go in a restaurant, look at the menu, and say, yes, to the waiter, yes, I'll take that off. Although I have many friends that do and are working on that. Generally, that's not a good idea. So metaphysical gluttony is not what we're about. So we want to be very judicious about that. Vertical health is then how can you move to the next general level when you're ready to. And that's a very important point because once you're at a particular level, you really have to flesh it out. You have to taste it. You have to feel it. You have to inhabit it and experience it. And then you can move on to another stage. Now, keep in mind, at any of these stages, you can still experience gross, subtle, causal, and non-dual states. So you can still be grounded in a genuine understanding and practice of ever-present big mind. You can get into causal, meditative states. You can get into subtle states of luminosity and devotional practice and so on. You can do those states at virtually any stage you're at. And the more you do those states at whatever stage you're at, the more it will help you move through these stages. So don't worry that you're not at the highest stage. It's wherever you are. It's wherever you are. But you can practice deep, authentic, non-dual states in that sense, and then make that a foundational part of your practice, and then work to let the stages unfold as the stages unfold. And if you want to try to accelerate that growth, then integral transformative practice or integral life practice is a way to consciously try to accelerate that vertical growth. And that's fine. A lot of us want to do that. But keep in mind, at some point you stop transformation for a while. And you go, oh, okay, I guess I'll stop transforming. I did 22 transformations the last week. And whoa. And sooner or later, you know what? You stop and live. And so that's called. That's called translation, and that's not bad. So healthy translation is 99% of what we spend our life trying to be able to do. And so when you go into corporate wellness or settings like that, primarily you want to find out where people are and then help to make them healthy at whatever stage they're at. And that means if we use spiral dynamics as one of our favorite of many, but one of our favorites, then you learn to language, and usually in corporate that means blue and orange, and then green. And so there's kind of a different way to language what you're doing for each of those value levels. And horizontal health, there's a simple definition of horizontal health. There are many, but a very simple one is balancing the 4 quadrants at whatever stage you're at. So you want to balance I, we, and it at whatever stage you're at. If you give too much emphasis to I at any stage, it's narcissistic pathology. It's way too much, way too self-absorbed. If you give too much emphasis to we, then it's herd mentality. You're lost in relationships. The former tends to be a stereotypically male problem, tends to be more towards the agentic, macho self pathology. And women tend to get caught a little bit more lost in a relationship, lost in the we component without being able to find themselves in addition to being able to devote themselves to relationship. It's also very important. But then you also, so you don't want to give too much emphasis to I or to we or to it. If you merely have a kind of an it orientation, that's the classic dissociated mad scientist that has, it's sort of Nazi doctors and, several other examples come to mind, but I don't want to alienate most of my friends, so I'll just kind of move on. So that's a good general understanding of what health is there. And then specifically for people that are ready, you can work the transformation. But a lot of people go into the workplace and they think, we're going to do transformative leadership. We're going to go in and transform the workplace. Transformation is hard work. It takes an average of 2 to 3 to 5 years to really fundamentally transform. And if you're going in and you're going to work with transformative practices with your company, then basically you're giving them 2 jobs. First of all, they have to come to work and do their normal job. And then you're giving them the work of transformation, which is another full-time job. That's a lot to ask from employees, particularly if they don't ask for it themselves. And that's what a lot of people think they're going to do. They're going to go in and they're going to do integral transformative leadership training, which means I'm basically going to make your life hell. Because whatever you're doing, I'm going to tell you, ooh, not a level high enough. And so it's really a fundamental, horrible thing to do to somebody who has to go in and say, okay, this is where you're at, and let me make some suggestions about how you can balance out the stage you're at by emphasizing a little bit more we, a little bit more I, a little bit more it. And you can do those practices fairly easily. Transformation, again, could be 2 to 3 to 4 years. Robert Keegan estimates on general, looking at all the empirical evidence, it takes about 5 years to move through a stage. Now, we can accelerate that, but it's serious work. So learning to language it for people at those different stages is very important, too. But it's a wonderful, wonderful, wide-open field. It's very important. Yeah. Thank you. And good luck with that. Keep us posted.